And Nyerere of Tanzania once said, we must also define what development means. And he said, development does not mean necessarily the building of skyscrapers. There is nothing wrong with that. But let the Americans go to the moon, we are going to provide water to our villages. We must define what development means. And once we define what development means, and we define ourselves, then Africa shall realize our potential. In 1996, Thabo Mbeki talked about an African. Who is an African? Who are you? Define yourself first. The Chinese define themselves. The Indonesians define themselves. The Koreans define themselves. We must define ourselves and begin to believe in our institutions. You know, and I see it in this part of the world. When we want to look at our economy, we say, what does Moody's say? And Moody's is very moody when they come to Africa. Moody's. Can the Department of Economics at Unilag not do that? Can't they? McKinsey, an American outfit, they are the ones who come here and tell us how our economy is behaving. When the American dollar as much as sneezes, the Naira goes into a coma. Why? 63 years after independence in Nigeria, 66 in Ghana, 61 in Kenya, and many other countries, we still believe that somebody else's currency is what must define us. 63 years after independence, we are still importing chicken as if our chicken forgot how to lay eggs. The time is now for Africa to ask fundamental questions. Because if you ask the wrong questions, you'll get the wrong answers. And I'm suggesting to us that Africa is already asking those questions. You know, in the year 2013, African heads of states and government sat in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. That was during the chairmanship of South Africa's Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma. And they decided that we can no longer continue to live in this muck and mire. Africa must know progress. And they came up with Africa Agenda 2063. My sister spoke to it so very ably and eloquently and passionately. What we don't say is that during that week, Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma wrote an apology letter to Kwame Nkrumah, telling Kwame, we apologize. What we are doing now, you saw in 1963. A house divided against itself cannot stand. Now we are living through Africa Agenda 2063. We are living through the Sustainable Development Goals. And I'm not a Jewish prophet nor related to one, but I can confirm to you we will not fulfill any one of them. You cannot, in the nature of things, engage the reverse gear and then think you'll reach your destination. You cannot. And that is what most African countries have done. So the time is now, as the cliche goes, when you are in a hole, you stop digging. And Africa must stop digging. And if we stop digging and we look at what we have, Africa Continental Free Trade Area says that we are going to trade amongst ourselves in the world. Africa trades ourselves at best at 20%. Europe at about 70%, North America possibly 65%, Asia now going to 60%, Latin America going to 55%, Africa 20%. What must we do? That is the state of the continent of Africa. We must deal with the basic things. We must solve conflict. We must change our governance. Because if we don't deal with the question of governance, we are going nowhere. Africa has become a continent where after every election there is conflict, because the pursuit of power is the cutthroat competition where throats are actually cut. And I have no doubt in my mind that Africa can do it. When I look at Africa and I look at Nigeria, I see an Africa that is capable of rising because our sons and daughters now present in the continent and even in the diaspora. You go and see the Africans in the diaspora, whether they are in Antigua and Barbuda, and my good friend here, the ambassador of Antigua and Barbuda, Wallace Williams, Trinidad and Tobago, will agree with me in that regard. You go to St. Vincent's and Grenadines, you go to Jamaica, everybody now wants to come and invest in Africa. But we must make the circumstances right. So we must improve our politics. We must make our laws enabling. We must improve our agriculture. We must improve our health. We must improve our education system. We must improve the quality of the environment so that we stop our young men and women dying in the Mediterranean Sea, dying off the coast of Dhaka, going into modern day slavery in Saudi Arabia, in that part of the world. It can be done. We have seen it done during our lifetime. We have seen South Korea do it. We have seen China do it. We are seeing India do it. We can see Indonesia doing it. We have seen Vietnam after the war doing it. And within the continent of Africa, there are other examples. We have seen Rwanda rise like a phoenix during our lifetime. We have seen Botswana do it. We have seen Cabo Verde do it. We have seen Mauritius doing it. It can be done. And if we agree that it can be done, what we must now do is to take a solemn vow. And that solemn vow must come from these words spoken by Julius Kambarage Nyerere on the 6th day of March 1997 in Accra, Ghana, when he was called upon to be the guest on the 40th anniversary of Ghana's independence. This is what he said, and I say this, then I shut up and sit down. Mwalimu said, when Kwame Nkrumah told us in 1963 that we ought to unite, we agreed with him. And we did not for one moment believe that unity in and of itself will solve our problems. What we believe that unity will make our voices as Africans to be respected, because the rest of the world is not bothered about our Ghanaianness or our Tanzanianness. He did not say this, but I'm adding, but our Nigerianness or Ugandanness. The rest of the world only knows about Africa. The time is now. Our generation fought the colonialists and brought what we thought was independence, but they gave us the crown without the jewels. But of all the sins that we have committed, there is a single sin that we must never commit: the sin of giving up, the sin of despair. And each one of us must remember that we have a role to play. We have a role to play because if the ocean is to exist, the droplets must be good. If the forest is to exist, the trees must be good. Play your part and let the results be the testimony of your efforts.
Africa's greatest challenge isn't a lack of brilliance, natural wealth, or innovation. It's a crisis of leadership, a deep, corrosive failure to elevate the best among us. When clowns are crowned as kings, kingdoms become circuses. When hyenas are trusted to guard the goats, we shouldn't gasp in shock when the pen is empty. This isn't metaphor, it's reality. Leaders who should be servants become masters. Officers meant for vision and service are reduced to feeding troughs of greed. But let's be honest, the deeper disease lies not just in the rulers, but in the ruled. We glorify thieves. We cheer for the loudest, not the wisest. We elect plunderers and then mourn the plunder. Corruption in Africa doesn't begin at the ballot box. It begins in the heart of a society that rewards flash over substance, that is attracted to noise instead of integrity. Too many celebrate the man who returns from office with stolen wealth rather than shame him. We are sometimes complicit in our own betrayal, but winds are shifting. A new generation is waking up. From Lagos to Kigali, From Accra to Nairobi, a bold consciousness is stirring, especially among the youth. They are questioning, organizing, and daring to imagine a different kind of Africa. And let us be clear, we don't need to imitate the West to rise. Africa does not need glass towers to prove its worth. We don't need billion-dollar tech campuses while our children drink from polluted streams. Let the West chase the moon. We must bring clean water to our villages, light to our homes, and dignity to our schools. We must define development in our own language, not in borrowed terms. A nation is not great because of how tall its buildings are, but because of how well it uplifts the poorest among its people. Still today, we allow foreign rating agencies like Moody's to dictate our financial destiny. We obsess over IMF reports and McKinsey recommendations. We let outsiders analyze our economies while ignoring the brilliance of African economists, statisticians, and researchers. The dollar sneezes and the naira collapses. But why? Why is our economic fate still tethered to currencies we don't control and systems we didn't design? This dependency is not just economic, it's psychological. We've allowed ourselves to believe others know us better than we know ourselves. But here's the truth. Real power begins with self-definition. China knows who it is. So does Korea. So does Indonesia. These nations rose because they built on their own values, their own people, and their own vision. It is Africa's turn now, and this is not blind optimism. It is grounded in living examples. We've seen Rwanda rise from the ashes of genocide to become a model of order and innovation. We've seen Botswana invest in its people. Cape Verde and Mauritius, small yet steady, are proving that size does not limit success. Even Nigeria, with all its chaos, has the potential to become a $3 trillion economy within a decade. The people are there. The talent is there. The question is, do we have the will? We must also stop exporting our brightest minds and strongest hands to foreign shores while our homeland withers. Our young people shouldn't have to cross deserts, drown in the Mediterranean, or suffer in foreign lands chasing crumbs. The time has come to build a continent worth staying for. Yes, we must pray. Yes, we must fast. But faith without action is empty. Even the scriptures say, by the sweat of your brow you shall eat bread. The manna factory is closed. The age of passive miracles is over. Now is the era of making our own manna with our minds, our hands, and our resolve. Across the Caribbean, in the Americas, in Europe, and in the rest of the diaspora, the children of Africa are watching. Many are returning, investing, and connecting. The continent is calling, but it must be made ready politically, economically, spiritually, and structurally. We must create governments that inspire trust, laws that protect the vulnerable, economies that feed families, education systems that liberate minds. We must make it harder to steal and easier to serve. Only then will the floodgates of innovation, investment, and pride open. The time is now, not tomorrow, not in 2063. Now, Africa must rise, not because we hope it will, but because we decide it must.